So you've probably heard that journaling is good for you, but maybe you feel like you don't have the time to do it, or you're not quite sure how to get started, or maybe you just aren't really certain of how it's going to actually benefit you in your life. If that is the case, I'm very excited because today I'm going to be going over everything that you need to know about journaling. My name is Paige Reckman. I'm a licensed psychotherapist that's based in Brooklyn, New York, and I work with a lot of young professionals and recent grads who are struggling with anxiety, depression, and self-esteem issues. My hope is that by the end of this video, you will have let go of some of those myths or mistaken beliefs that you might have about journaling that are getting in the way of you actually starting. I'm also going to be talking about the benefits that journaling can have on your mental health and why. And lastly, I'm going to be going over 3 tips that are going to help you get the most out of journaling, especially if your goal is to journal for your mental health. The first myth about journaling that I want to go over is this idea that you have to journal every single day in order to reap the benefits. Yes, there's no doubt that journaling every day and doing it consistently can have really positive benefits on your mental health, but you don't have to do it every day. You can turn to journaling whenever you need to. It doesn't have to be this extra item on your to-do list that's stressing you out. And full transparency, I don't journal every day. Usually I turn to journaling for a few reasons. The first is if I'm feeling sad and I need to express my feelings and get them out. The next is if I'm having some kind of problem or conflict in my life and I'm trying to figure out the best solution for it. I think writing it out can often be really helpful. And I also turn to journaling when I want to feel inspired, when I'm thinking about my future and my goals and I just need to write them out and kind of get excited about them. Don't put too much pressure on yourself to do it all the time. And if you miss a day, then you have to stop because you give up. Just try to do it whenever it feels good for you. And if you want to set that goal to try to be consistent with it and do it every day or 3 to 4 times a week, go for it. I actually looked up the definition of journaling just because why not? And according to the Oxford Dictionary, journaling simply means to write in a diary or journal. That's it. There's no time requirement. Although I do have to admit that definition on journaling seems a little outdated to me, and it actually brings me to my next myth about journaling that I want to go over, and that is that you have to have a pen and a piece of paper in order to journal. And again, that's simply not true. You can journal in the Notes app on your phone, you can write in Google Docs, you can even send yourself an email if you want. You don't even have to write. You can scribble, you can draw, you can collage. There are endless ways that you can journal and still reap mental health benefits. Of course, if you want to get an inspirational notebook, go for it, but don't let finding the perfect notebook be the thing that stops you from just starting. You can start with whatever materials you may have on hand with you right now. So the last myth about journaling that I want to go over that is a very important one is a lot of people think that they have to be really good, prolific writers in order to journal. And again, this is not true. You don't have to worry about spelling, you don't have to worry about grammar, full sentences, you don't have to worry about any of that. Don't put too much pressure on yourself to be this perfect writer when you journal. You also don't have to worry about coming up with some kind of inspirational insight or huge grand epiphany that's going to change your life. I mean, it could happen, and if it does, great, but don't let this fear of it possibly not happening stop you from trying it. Journaling isn't so much about the writing itself. It's about reflecting, it's about taking time for yourself, it's about exploring your inner world and learning to express your feelings more than it is about the actual outcome of what you might discover. And if this idea that I have to be a perfect writer and I have to do a good job at journaling in order to do it, if that's coming up for you, it might be a sign that you are a perfectionist, and perhaps there are other areas of your life where this perfectionism is showing up. And if that's the case, you can go ahead and write about it in your journal. I want to also talk about why journaling is good for you. So study after study show that when people journal, not only does it help them relieve mental health symptoms like depression or anxiety, it can also help you improve your physical health. There were studies done with cancer patients, with patients with HIV and chronic pain, and they all experienced improved health outcomes from expressive writing, which is something that I'm going to go over in a minute. So how does journaling do this? How does it not only help us mentally, but also physically? So I think one of the biggest reasons that this happens is because journaling can help us confront suppressed emotions that may have been bottled up for a really long time. Feelings are really complex, and when we journal, we create a safe space to explore those feelings. We aren't just reacting automatically like we do in our day-to-day. We're actually pausing, reflecting, investigating what's going on for us, looking a little bit deeper. It gives us a moment to really listen to our feelings, which can be very valuable. They're usually there for a reason, and they're trying to tell us something. What I also love so much about writing in a journal is that it is a completely neutral vehicle for expression. I mean, of course, I'm a therapist, so I think talking to a therapist can be helpful, talking to a friend, but therapists and friends are human beings, and we all have opinions. There might be fear of judgment if you're talking to someone. You might feel a little bit inhibited, but with a journal, you can be completely yourself. You can be fully authentic because a journal will never judge you. It's just an object. And I think there's something really, really valuable about having a space where you can just be true to yourself. People in my practice will go journal, and then they'll come back and be able to talk about things that maybe didn't come up for them before because they've processed it a little bit more in that neutral space. So the other reason that journaling is good for you is that it can help you access other narratives about yourself that you may have never thought about before. When you are overwhelmed with your emotions, it can be really difficult to think clearly or to think about other perspectives or other options that might be available to your unique situation. But I know that when I journal, I'm able to uncover ideas that I would have never thought about if I was just ruminating on this one thing throughout my day. So the other thing about journaling and how it can help to benefit your life, which I think is super magical, is that journaling can literally make your dreams come true. I know that sounds like super woo-woo and you might not believe me, but there is a study that has shown this. Half of the participants were instructed to journal about their goals and the other half weren't. And the ones that journaled about their goals were 42% more likely to achieve them than the people that didn't write about their goals. Isn't that so amazing? And I think the reason that this is because when you actually write down a goal, write down a thought or an intention, you're putting energy towards it. Your brain is thinking about it. Maybe you're planning a little bit more or processing a little bit more and remembering it more. And actually, this has happened to me before. So I don't know if you all heard of the Rock Clock. It was this app that was created by The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, and sadly, I don't think it exists anymore. I downloaded it years and years ago, and I remember I was instructed to write down a goal that I had for myself and then a time that I wanted to achieve it by. And so I wanted to pay off my student loans, and I gave myself time. I don't remember exactly how much, but what I do remember is I achieved that goal of paying off my student loans only a month after the actual time frame that I set, which is so magical. I know it wasn't exactly the date that I put it in, but I think it was close enough that it counts. So I am living proof that when you actually write your goals down, you can make them happen. Okay, now I want to go over how you can get the most out of journaling, especially if your goal is to journal for your mental health. So the first tip that I want to share with you is to write expressively versus factually. So what that means is instead of just talking about your day-to-day or your plans or what you had for dinner, you want to go a little bit deeper. You want to talk about your thoughts around an experience, your feelings around an experience, and more specifically, talking about an emotional experience that you actually had. Emotional writing like this has been scientifically proven to show reduced symptoms in depression for those that engage in it. And I know it might sound a little counterintuitive, like why should I write about my emotions and get all sad when that's not how I want to feel? I want to feel better. But the reality is when you don't process those sad feelings, those uncomfortable emotions that might be bottled up inside of you, they can manifest in other ways. And so when you journal about them, you're giving them space to breathe, and that's when you can move through them. But I do want to point out, for victims of trauma, this is a little bit different. Studies have shown that victims of trauma, when they write just about the emotions they experienced, they did not achieve as positive of an outcome as they did when they wrote about the emotions and the actual event itself. I think that the reason for this is because when people experience trauma, it can be very debilitatingly overwhelming. And so you want to make sure that if that's something you're journaling about, you're not just talking about the emotions, but you're also looking at the facts and the event of what occurred. As always, take care of yourself when you're doing anything that I talk about in this YouTube channel. If anything ever feels too intense, Pause, stop, speak with a professional. Just remember, the goal always is to take care of yourself. So the next tip that I want to go over that you can use to help you get the most out of your journaling is an acronym called WRITE, which is WRITE. It fits so perfectly. Right, journaling, perfect. So this acronym was created by the Center for Journal Therapy, and it can really help a person if you don't know where to start when you journal, or you just want a little bit of a guideline to get you going. So let's go over what each letter means. So the W in WRITE stands for what? And this is just a reminder to think about what it is that you want to get out of journaling. Maybe what is my intention? What is it that I want to write about? The R stands for reflect. And this is just a reminder that if you give yourself a few minutes before you start journaling to center yourself and really think about that W, that what that I want to write about, it can help you to get going once you start. I know for me, I like to have coffee in the morning and take some time to reflect when I know I'm going to journal, and just sit there and really center myself, put my phone away and think through, what is my intention here? The I in WRITE stands for investigate. And this is an opportunity for you to take your journaling a little bit deeper, to be curious about your experience, what's coming up for you, and maybe explore different angles of whatever it is that you're writing about. The T in WRITE stands for time. And as we all know, journaling does take a little bit of time. You can give yourself 5 minutes to start if you'd like. You can eventually get up to 10 or 15 minutes. But the idea is that you're committing yourself to a little bit of time to journal. And it's also a reminder that sometimes warming up when you journal can take some time. Don't be too hard on yourself. Commit and see where it takes you. The E in WRITE stands for exit. So what this means is once you're done with your writing, take a look at what you've written. See if there are any takeaways that you can bring with you for the rest of the day, any insights that you want to reflect on a little more deeply and possibly write about the next time you open up your journal. All right, so the last tip that I'm going to leave you with is to use prompts when you journal. And this can be really good for anyone who just wants some structure when they journal, who maybe doesn't love the idea of doing stream of consciousness, they don't know what to write about. Using a prompt is totally fine. And I'm actually going to include 30 journal prompts that you can download below, and you can use them however you'd like. If you want, you can go ahead and give yourself a journaling challenge, and each day use a different prompt as an entry for your journal. You can also just choose whatever resonates. Take a look at the list, and if there's any entry that you want to delve a little bit deeper into, just pick that one and go for it. Okay, so I actually have a surprise bonus tip for you all, and that is to just start. I think so many of us want to wait for that perfect notebook or that perfect pen or that perfect idea, or I want to feel ready to journal, but just go at it. Stop this video now. You can get a pen and a piece of paper or open up your email and go ahead and just start writing. Use the prompts below, use the tips that I suggested. Don't forget, if you want to try to get a little bit deeper into it, explore your emotions a bit when you're writing, and start. If you like this video, you know what to do. Go ahead and like it so that other people know it's valuable and can help them with their journaling. You can also subscribe to my channel, which is all about mental health, self-reflection, and emotional wellness. And please message me, leave a comment. I would love to know about any topics you might want covered that you might find useful, because that's what this channel is all about, providing information, education to anyone that might want it outside of my therapy practice. As always, thank you so much for stopping by my little corner of the internet, and happy journaling. Bye.